How's it going? I hope you guys are all enjoying your week. I have a few things I want to share before heading in to this Sunday of life hacks. I don't know about you guys, but I've been loving this series of life hacks. I think it actually ended up getting a lot deeper than what we were planning on, which is a good thing because we didn't want some superficial, month off basically, and it turned it into some really heavy stuff. And so it's been great to be a part of. One quick thing I wanted to share before we get into everything. Well, two quick things actually. The first is if you could be praying, we have 16 people heading off this Monday to the Philippines for the next 2 weeks to work with Trash Mountain. Every year we have a group of high schoolers that go with a few leaders, and we are setting them off on Monday, so please just be praying for them. This weekend we're actually going to have a commissioning prayer at all the services, but please just be praying for that trip and just what God is doing in their life and the way that He is not only moving in their lives, but the impacts that they have and their willingness to obey God over in the Philippines, and for the people over there who don't just, they need God, but they need help. And so we want to be there to help them because everyone truthfully needs help. The second thing I wanted to say is just a big thank you to everyone who this summer has stepped up to take on either a leadership role or more of a leadership role. I really appreciate the fact that our team just continues to grow and people continue to step up and lead, and I just thank you so much for that and your willingness to do that. Thank you for being a part of this team, and thank you for growing with us and what we're doing, and it's been incredible to watch. Now, for a year and a half about that at East, just watch as more and more people come in that have never gotten to experience God's love before and leave knowing, wow, there's something pretty special to this. It's great to get to hear those stories. It's great to see the community that's being formed. It's great to see people stepping up, and I just thank you for that. So with that, I wanted to move into the big thing I wanted to share today, and that is all kind of based off of this quote that I heard, and it's just in the book I'm reading, The Power of the Other, and I'm sure everyone's heard a version of this before. It's just like, no man is an island. Well, what he said in it is, there's no such thing as a self-made man. And I'm sure many of you have heard that before. But as he was going in, he even gave some examples of these famous or very successful people who also had somebody in their life who was willing to walk alongside of them. They talked about how, like, Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook, had Steve Jobs. Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson. They named a bunch of others, probably better examples than that. But they always had somebody who was willing to walk alongside them, but he brought it from a different aspect of all of those people who had a great mentor, were willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help. And he was just talking about there's so many people out there that are so talented, that are so smart, that are so driven, but yet they're still so unwilling to say, hey, you know what, I need some help. And how in this quadrant of connection, corner 4, which is the best one to be in, that's the strong connection, when you're in that quadrant, you're willing to say, hey, I need some help. I'm vulnerable in this area. I want to get better in this area. And just being vulnerable. And so I want to take a moment right now and just ask us to be vulnerable. That's what we're going to be doing heading into August as we start a weekly devotion within our team of coordinators. I've asked that if you guys are willing to get Facebook, and I know some of us hate Facebook, but there even works out, I know Stu is going to be using Lila's Facebook, so there are ways around that as well that you can just communicate. But then to have everyone download the YouVersion Bible app, because starting in August, we're going to do a 7-day devotion, and we'll do each day for 1 week. But then I'm going to strongly encourage that once a week or every other week, we talk about it, we discuss, and we're willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, like, here's some struggles I have, or here's something I didn't know. Because what I want to see happen is that as us of a group, we can be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm not where I want to be with my relationship with Christ. And I think we can all say that, whether it's way up here or right here, or even down here. We can all say, I want to get a little bit deeper with Christ, and I think this is a great way to do it. So we're just going to have a dialogue between us, and Facebook's the easiest way to do it. Most of us have Facebook. But where we're just willing to go on and discuss and talk, and it's going to be a small group setting online, which is really simple. But I just want us to take that time and be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, I want to get better, and us as a collective group can help one another get better. I know in talking to a lot of you, man, there's so much I can learn from your leadership and your wisdom, and I'm sure I've told most of you that, but I want to. I want to learn from you guys, and I'm hoping at some point you learn something from me. But I think this is a great way to do it. But then I also want that atmosphere of being vulnerable to extend into our teams. I want people on our teams to be willing to come up to us and say, hey, you know what, I need some help with this. Now, while we can't force them to do that, we can give them the opportunity. We can open that up to them. We can invest in them, influence them, build value in them to where we are put in a place to where when they come and they need our help, that we're there and they're willing to say it. I heard something else great today, and that is our job is to delight in the people we're serving. So the people we're serving aren't necessarily all the guests that show up. The people we're serving specifically are the people on our teams. And so we focused on serving them to where when they're willing to become vulnerable and ask for help, they come to us, which is what we want, because that's how we build this spiritual maturity. That's how we put ourselves in the conversation. So again, starting in August, we're going to have a YouVersion Bible app devotion that we're going to go through over Facebook. I'm hoping it goes well. I strongly encourage that we are all willing to say, you know what, yeah, I'll commit one post a week, which, trust me, that's way more than I post. So if I can do it, I know you guys can do it also. But other than that, quick reminder again, we have the coordinator barbecue at my house coming up the last Sunday of July 30th. I think it's going to be awesome. Bring your own chairs. I don't have enough. But I'm just excited for all of us to get to hang out again in the blistering heat. It'll be a lot of fun. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you this Sunday.